Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Create Brevity. I'm your host, eDirector, and for this week's episode, I want to talk about using courage and using goals to help you manifest and help you manifest more quickly. So before we begin, just want to remind you guys that I do offer one-on-one coaching, and I also offer more manifesting tips on my blog at www.createbrevity.com. Okay, so check that out if you're interested. Um, okay. Anyways, back to the podcast. Enough selling myself. Back to the podcast. So in this, for this week's episode, like I said, I want to talk about courage and using goals to help you manifest. And I got the idea of using courage as I was reading a book called The Courage to be Disliked, and it is a book that deals with Adlerian philosophy. And in case you guys are interested, the book is really interesting, and it focuses on the philosophical sort of thinking, the teachings, and the ideas of Alfred Adler, who was a contemporary of Freud and Carl Jung. And he sort of has a little bit of a different idea of how to approach life, and the book kind of distills his teachings, and it breaks them down in a way that's easy for people to understand. But one thing that really stuck with me is some of the things that he believed are really similar to conscious manifesting. They're really similar to this idea of focusing on a goal and allowing things to sort of your behavior and the way that you approach life um, to be to essentially allow your behavior and the way you approach life to help you achieve a goal rather than have your behavior, have your way of life, have your personality, rather than that be an outcome of past decisions or of past traumas, really. So rather than it being, I was traumatized and then this happened, and then now my personality is like this. So it's this step one, step two, step three sort of timeline dependent outcome. Adler was sort of the reverse. He believed that you have, of course, your personality and you have natural traits, but that you approach situations with a goal-oriented outcome. So, for example, if you he uses the writers of the book use a great example of someone's relationship to their parents or to their colleagues at work or even to their boss. So it is if you are in a situation where someone does triggers you, for example, your parents trigger you, your boss triggers you, your coworkers trigger you, you have the option of deciding what kind of relationship you want to have with them, right? So you make a decision, you create a goal of not liking them, and you will use that triggered outcome, right? That moment where you were triggered, where you were irritated, and you'll use that as a reference point, and you'll say, I don't like that person because of this. But really, you just decided you didn't want to like them, and you're using that moment when you got triggered to sort of start to see all the things you don't like about that person. However, you can also reverse it. You can look at someone with gratitude and with thanks, and you can look at them with the intention of, being their friend. And then you start to notice, oh, all of their good qualities. That's all you see. Maybe some of the things that they do that trigger you, they're just not as important, or they become less obvious to you, right? So um, Adler believed that interpersonal relationships are sort of at the core of the reason why we suffer. And he believed that it was because of the fact that we don't separate our tasks, is what he called them, that we have a task to be ourselves, right? And the other person's task is to accept that or not. But oftentimes we try to do the most, and we try to not necessarily be ourselves, but we focus on getting everyone to like us. So then we have not only not done our own work, not done our own task, but now we are doing everyone else's work for them as well. We're not even letting them decide how they feel about us and how they judge us. So that is actually exhausting us, right? It's making us run ragged and it's making us very unhappy. Now, like I said, this really fits in with what we've been discussing when we talk about the law of assumption, when we talk about conscious manifesting. Because essentially, when you assume something, that's your goal, right? That is essentially you are thinking, this is what I want to have. I want to have that promotion. I want to get this job. I want to get this commission. I want this person to like me, right? And we are working from the assumption that that is already ours. That's something that we're going to get that is achievable. Okay. And we're aligning our personality and our thoughts and our behavior in order to achieve that. That's conscious manifesting, right? But the what I that was a little bit different. And we talk about it a little bit when we talk about having faith. But I like the word courage, and that's the word that's used in this book, and it's attributed to Adler's philosophy. Is this idea that, you know, I think that it gets lost on us sometimes. I think we think that having faith and staying aligned to your goal, staying aligned to your assumption is something that's a little bit, it's supposed to be easy. And yes, once you get comfortable with it, it can get easier. And yes, for some people, depending on what they're trying to assume, they get it's a little bit easier for them. It is. But if you're in a situation where this is all very new to you and you're sort of just now getting the self-awareness to try to have a different lifestyle, right? To try to embrace conscious manifesting, it takes a lot of courage. You really have to be able to go, you know what? All of these new thoughts that I'm thinking, all of these new things that I'm learning, they're really different than my lived experience, right? They're very different than past, you know, experiences I've had in relationships. They're very different than the reality that I've been living. And it hurts a little bit and it's hard for me to let go of that because I don't want to be embarrassed. No one wants to be foolish, right? No one, especially letting someone else down, of course, is very painful. But when you let yourself down and when you get to a situation where you feel like you can't trust yourself, when you really feel like you can't like yourself, right? And that's kind of the crux of that self-doubt, right? You just don't want to be one of those people. So you go out of your way, okay, to avoid situations that make you feel like that trigger you, that make you feel scared and doubtful, and that make you feel just like you have no other option. And the thing is, in order to break free of that, it does require courage. You have to start believing in yourself again. You have to start seeing yourself not as a victim, right? And it can be really hard to do that first. So what I got out of this book, and especially as it applies to conscious manifesting, was that idea of courage, being okay with allowing people to dislike you, right? Because at first that's very scary, right? You're so focused on that as your goal that when it first starts happening, in conscious manifesting terms, we talk about it kind of like you're fixing your self concept, and then there's that backlash, right? The rubber band snapping backwards, right? That the idea of that happening, it can be triggering. It makes you scared, and that stops a lot of people from going forward. But really understand that you're in that courageous moment, okay? Being yourself, being comfortable with yourself, accepting yourself, okay? And accepting that you want something different and accepting that you can have it, it requires courage. It does. So next time around, when your ego is sort of pounding in on you, because that's really what it is, it's that it's coming up inside of you to try to protect you, right? It doesn't want you to be foolish. It doesn't want you to move because staying where you are is safe, right? Remember, your ego is just trying to protect you, okay? It doesn't want you to fall flat on your face. That's why it reminds you of every single time you fell on your face. Okay? You need to remind yourself that it's okay, that you're having these thoughts, it's natural, but it's all a part of having courage. Okay? We sometimes people will call this having faith. And I love that word. I love the idea of faith, but there's something about it that I think makes people feel like they just have to sit back and do nothing and just be in faith. And especially for someone who's beginning the journey of conscious manifestation, that can feel strange. It's like, oh, I'm finally ready to change my life. And you want me to just sit here, right? Be grounded. And what I'm challenging you to do is try to think of it as you're being brave in that moment. Every single moment before it gets comfortable again, before it starts sinking in, you're being courageous. You're being brave, okay? It's very easy to go, you know what? It hurts, okay? It's too hard. I'm going to let everything go back. I'm going to be go towards the goal, go towards the assumption that I can't change, right? I'm going to go backwards. I'm going to let my behavior, my personality, let everything be attuned to that other goal again because this is too much, okay? Or you can say, you know what? I've lived like that. It's not working for me anymore. It doesn't serve me. I'm going to do something different. Even if it feels a little awkward now, even if it's a little ugh, right? Even if I'm in the ugh right now, it's okay, right? This is something different. I'm going to accept that that's how it feels. I'm going to acknowledge that. I'm not going to try to push it away, okay? And I'm just going to let myself be brave and let myself have courage, okay? I'm going to keep my new goal, right? These new relationships I want to have, okay? I'm going to let myself believe that I can have them. I'm going to let myself believe I can have that job, okay? I'm going to make that my goal, not running away, right? Not going backwards, okay? And if you do find yourself running away a little bit and going backwards, I'm also going to accept the fact that that's okay because it happens sometimes. Sometimes we need to go backwards a little bit so we can move forwards in the right direction. I'm going to accept that about myself and I'm going to have courage. I'm going to be brave. I'm going to take heart and I'm going to start again. So I really hope this helps. Like I said, if you're uncomfortable with the word faith and if you're uncomfortable with the idea of being grounded, these are words that get used a lot when we talk about manifesting. And again, it can be hard to understand when you're first sort of diving into this kind of stuff. So I want you to think of it as being brave, okay, as being goal oriented, right? As someone who is changing their goal, okay, as someone who's changing their assumption, right? And they're just marching towards it, right? With courage and with bravery. Okay, I really hope this helps, guys. Like I said, if you need more manifesting tips or you're interested in one-on-one coaching, please check out our website, www.createbrevity.com. Love and light. Thanks.